squabbling, of course. Tristan Ovenden up front is getting away.
Pedal travel needs to be much shorter. This is not good. Come on, I have a tissue under the brake.
Did somebody change something?
How to drive without ABS? What happened?
I don't have the brake!
This is Team Simucube. We hear you.
Well, hello everyone. It's a new round of the ROKiT British F4 Esports Championship. We head to Silverstone for the Simucube round number 5 at Silverstone. It's the penultimate round, of course, of the championship here in the ROKiT British F4 Esports Championship. And we have it at the home of British Motorsports. My name is Connery Maddock, and as ever, I'm joined by the ever wonderful and ever present Lewis McGlade for this one. We've had a wide variety of tracks over the course of this season, Lewis, but we arrive at Silverstone. We're using the national circuit. This is going to be maybe a little different from the tracks that have come previous, given how much that these cars can keep themselves together.
Yeah, tiny track, this one, of course, running the half of Silverstone that actually is based in Northamptonshire, the other half being in Buckinghamshire. And it's a tight and twisty layout in some, in one tiny section of it. The rest of it is almost completely open, pinned to the floor. And you're talking of sub-minute lap times around here. It's always going to be a draft fest. And all of the drivers have known that for the entirety of the season. They've all been pinpointing this round as being the crazy one, as being the one where you want to have a little bit of a points advantage coming into, because this is where things can get a little bit scary.
Yeah, it can do as well. All of which we'll cover a little bit later on. Something we'll cover later on as well is the title sponsor of the race, Simucube. They brought out their new active pedal product coming soon. So that's going to be very, very interesting. We'll delve more into that a little bit later on. But of course, it's going to be a fantastic day, fantastic round here at Silverstone. And why not? Let's just get straight into things then. Just have a little bit of a recap of the format here. Each round will include 2 30-minute races. The grid for race 1 dictated by a lone qualifying session. If you're unfamiliar to sim racing, that means the cars are all alone out there on circuit, not being able to affect anyone else or anyone else being able to affect themselves. The grid for race 2 will be determined by a reverse grid, and that reverse grid will be a random reverse grid between the 5th place finisher and the 10th place finisher in race 1. And you can see the point scoring system there down at the very bottom of your screen. They're very, very familiar, of course. 25 points to the race winner, points all the way down to P10, which is your final point paying position here in this one. And well, these are the prizes that the teams and drivers are going to be competing for as we get very, very late on into the season here today. Primarily, it is a team's championship, of course, £2,500 going to the winning team at the end of the season, with $1.5 grand going to second and $1 grand going to third. There's also a small drivers' championship pool as well. £500 goes to the winning driver in that instance, and it's not just monetary prizes either. The winning team will get themselves 2 full days in the base performance simulator, official Formula 4 simulator in Banbury. The second place team will also get that, but they only get 1 full day. The third place team will get themselves 6 hours simulator time at the Virtual Reality Racing Club at Silverstone. But more prizes are on offer. The winning driver gets themselves a Sim Race 5 simulator chassis and Virtual Reality Racing Club GTF1 race seat as well. All top 3 drivers will get themselves 1 hour of online sim coaching sessions from VRRC as well. And everyone that wins a prize will be able to get themselves invited to attend the Night of Champions here in conjunction with Motorsports UK. So that is an absolutely fantastic group of prizes here to be giving in the not too distant future here, Lewis. We are coming towards the end of the season now.
Yep, just 2 rounds left to go. It means there's only 4 races, 2 qualifying sessions. It's going to be an incredible run as we look at the entry list. Of course, Apex Racing Team of the Apex Racing Academy, the points leaders, just 2 points separating them at the top. We'll talk about that a little bit more in the moment, with Luke McEwen, of course, being a part of the Apex Racing Academy, the points leader on the drivers' side of things. But they aren't that far behind, or far ahead, rather, of the Munster Rugby Gaming. Alexander Spetz and Josh Vlad keeping close company, but a few drivers to keep an eye on. Of course, Deegan Fairclough, who's been absolutely fantastic on speed for the racing side, yet to put it together. Joseph Loke, who we know is very good in this car and around here, along with Georgi Dimitrov, who I don't believe is here today. A few other ones to take a look out for. Team Fords are looking pretty quick today, and Mensa Racing, the only team on the grid yet to score a point in the season.
Yeah, absolutely. So they're looking to try and get themselves off the mark. Pretty much everyone else has over the course of this season. But, better late than never for Mensa Racing potentially coming into this one. They just need to get themselves 1 driver inside of that top 10, and, well, they're no longer on the big fat 0 points mark at the bottom of the table. But we'll see their progress in these final couple of rounds of this season. And it's great to see the representation not only from the what we typically would call sim drivers, but of course the real world teams and drivers getting themselves involved here in sim racing as well, getting stuck in. Here's the description of the penalty structure. Of course, drivers throughout the season, if they get blamed for incidents, they will have license points added to their tally. And for every 4 license points, the driver will receive an exclusion from qualifying at the following round, and therefore will have to start at the very back of the starting grid. And you can see the tallies that everyone is on at the moment.
Yeah, I'm not. I think Deegan Fairclough and Ruben Stanislaus, I think Corey Lane as well. They served their penalty last round. So as much as they are high on that list, I don't believe they're actually carrying in that removal from qualifying in this. They've already technically served that one, but Deegan Fairclough's already moving himself. Yeah, with an extra penalty and whatever. He's only 3 away from having that one again. I'm sure that it might be even harsher if you have to do that. That for a second time in not a long season. Realistically, if I'm brutally honest, I know how close this championship is, I know how fast this championship is. You should not be picking up 4 license points over a 6-round season. It's 12 races. If you're picking up 4 license points and they're all for like smaller incidents and whatnot, the positions lost between 1 and 10, well, you've got to do 4 of those. That's 1 every 3 races. That wouldn't be good enough. So it's why it's sometimes they're a little bit harsher on some of those license points. It's why it's quite easy to almost get up to that exclusion.
Yeah, it is. And, Caruana and McIntyre are the drivers that have to be a bit careful over the course of this race, lest they get a qualifying ban for the finale. But let's have a look at the team standings then. Apex Racing Academy lead the way on 206 points. However, they are only 2 points ahead of their sister team of the main Apex Racing team. Munster Rugby Gaming, as a result of the previous round, fell behind a little bit. Apex was so fantastic during that previous event that they were able to get themselves a gap with both of their teams in this team's championship at the moment. But it's not too late for for Munster Rugby Gaming to get back into this. It's too late for Chimera Performance, Team Fortilla Hybrid, GHR Development for them to be able to get themselves inside of the top 3 at this stage. But we do have our 3 challengers for the team's championship at the end of the season here, Lewis. It could be Apex Academy, Apex Racing Team, and Munster Rugby Gaming. It's just a matter of which order they're going to end up at the end of 6 rounds.
Yeah, and of course, between the Apex Racing Team, they said they don't really care which one wins, whether it's the Academy or the team. They just want to make sure it's a 1-2. Munster Rugby Gaming will be able to do something about that, especially on a day like this. And the driver's side is also looking a bit more on the advantage side for the Apex Racing Team. I think Luke McEwen's got a healthy lead over Josh Ladd from Munster Rugby Gaming. So it's a little bit more separated on the driver's point of view, as we can see here. Jamie Fluke, who's also had a bit of a comeback charge after a couple of awkward rounds. I don't know how he's feeling to date, but we have noted that of the 4 rounds we've done so far, 2 of them he's been ill and has done quite well, and 2 of them he's felt fine and has done quite badly, to be honest. So we'll have to wait and see what Jamie Fluke we've got out in action today. I think we might need to see a very different one than what we've seen all season to get the best of the results around it.
I think for Jamie Fluke, he has to just try and go around and lick as many door handles as possible to try and get Hill and get himself further up the order. Yeah, absolutely. Luke McEwen, of course, he has a decent gap at the moment. Definitely not safe by any means. Let's just say that. But far from it, because Josh Ladd at some rounds this season has been very, very potent. He's just a little bit of a bearing about where we are here in this season. It is the penultimate round of the championship in the ROKiT British F4 Esports Championship. So it's not too long before the 2nd of December rolls around and we go to Brands Hatch Grand Prix to cap off the season and decide our champions in both categories, in the teams and of course in the drivers as well. This is where the stage is set for that finale. So you really want to be doing well here today to give you the best chances into that final round and just to take the pressure off a little bit.
Yeah, you need to have as close as you can get, a calm and consistent round around this circuit. Just 2.6 kilometers long. It is incredibly small, of course. We are over on the top of the shot, the furthest part away of this shot, running around that 2.6 kilometer national circuit. It's the one they use in real life. It's a tricky little track, but not one to be underestimated, all knowing that that run through Cops as being the old turn 1, of course, in the Grand Prix layout. Let's take a look, though, on board around as we head through the final corner, coming through Woodcut up towards Cops. On the first lap, this is going to be a very treacherous corner indeed. You're going to need to use a little bit of that runoff over on the left-hand side just to avoid any incidents, of which I think we might well see a couple. Into the tricky braking zone here at Maggots, you need to line it up all the way over to the right-hand side, because as you bring it through, you're on the brakes, you touch that curb on the left. You need to find a slightly late apex and run it out onto the curb, just a touch, rejoining the Grand Prix circuit, coming through Aintree here onto the Wellington Straight. You're running slightly slower here than you would typically expect if you were running on the Grand Prix circuit, just courtesy of the slower run out of Maggots into Brooklands, which I think is one of the best corners in British racing. Such a fantastic flow between Brooklands into Luffield, which is now a very awkward corner, as we all know it. Kind of double apex, you want to hold it to the white line, you want to go out and come back. There's a couple of different routes and options around Luffield up towards Woodcote, and that is a very swift look around this 50-odd second lap. 2.6 kilometers, just over a mile and a half. It's a fantastic little run.
Yeah, fantastic indeed. And well, we could jump straight into the actual live qualifying session that's going on out there at the moment. We've got provisional results already. We've got Peter Berryman on provisional pole position with Luke McEwen in 2nd place. Stanley Disland is getting himself up there in 3rd with Fluke in 4th. So it seems to be a bit of an apex party there towards the very front. And remember, in this lone qualifying session, drivers will only have 4 opportunities of getting themselves a quick flying lap here. If they use any more, well, they won't be counted. So that's just the situation that they have to hand. Here's Alex Spetz, though, for Munster Rugby Gaming. Needs to be having a good result here today to put his team back within a championship fight. Across the line he goes, does improve, and by a significant amount as well, up into 4th place here, as here's his teammate Josh Ladd in number 11 Munster Rugby gaming car, looking for an improvement as well. And Lad has typically, out of himself and Spets, typically been the faster driver. So if we can hook up a lap here, then potentially a front row start might be possible for Josh Ladd if he gets the lap right.
Yeah, he's got to. I mean, if he gets into the front row without getting pole position, he'll have slotted that 2,000th gap between Peter Berryman and Luke McEwen across the line of 54.669. It's a decent improvement, which puts him up into third, becoming a 6.71 on the time sheets there. There's McEwen, who's 2,000ths off of this pole. I've got to say, I really like the fact that, again, I've said it before, how it's a solo qualifying. You're just out there on the track by yourself. It's one thing that was the most frustrating thing when I used to drive racing around here, is that you would have the teams that are so good at working together, the likes of the Apex Racing team. They would just sit in one 4-car train, sacrifice one person's lap. You've got 4 laps in the session. They'll just keep moving it around and sacrificing each other's laps. And it's almost unbeatable. The fact that you've got to go out there and do it yourself, and the fact this is going to be an incredibly tight margin throughout this qualifying session, I think it's absolutely fantastic. Berryman, by the way, did improve onto a 54.615, so now actually moves about 300ths clear of his teammate McEwen.
Yeah, McEwen wasn't able to improve, neither was Deslanders. Pev getting himself up into 5th place. That's a monster qualifying lap there from the number 77. We're on board with Fairclough now at the moment, though. Number 87 car, best time 54.819. And you can just see how close the times are there on the left-hand side. There's absolutely nothing in it, especially considering we have such a short lap time here. That means the gaps are even closer. But yeah, interesting there from Deegan Fairclough as he heads his way up towards the line. Kind of aborted that lap just towards the end there. 55.1, not good enough for any sort of improvement. Here's Joseph Loco. He impressed us last time out, didn't he, Lewis?
Yeah, he certainly did. Got a few points onto the board around a circuit, which he has been good at in the real British Formula 4 championship, of course. Around here, did pick up a podium in the final of the 3 races over the weekend. As he crosses the line, still remains in 15th. Bradbury, though, up to 4th. As we'll see, James Armstrong back in the JHR Developments car. Of course, Dimitrov, we did believe was on the entry list, but we did believe wasn't taking part. So that one will be handed over back to James Armstrong. He's actually done quite well in that car in the early stages of this season. Although I do believe with 3.5 minutes left to go, with them doing such quick lap times around here, I actually think the qualifying session is pretty much done.
Yeah, I think it is. And we've got a spare 3 minutes and 20 seconds to try and fill here. That's just what happens when we have such a short lap time, and we still have 10 minutes of qualifying. So just gives us a little time to have a little bit of a chat about the situation that's in front of us here at the moment. Remember, this is round number 5 of the ROKiT British F4 Esports Championship. It's not just round number 5, it's the Simucube round number 5 as well, and they have announced a new product. It's the Simucube Active Pedal. Which is sort of a new pedal philosophy, at least in terms of sim racing equipment. You can adjust the pedal feel using Simucube's own software. No maintenance is very easy. You got no rubber, you got no oil, no springs, no hydraulic cylinders, no degrading parts. So it's likely going to last you a very, very long time. And of course, one of the big features as well is that it has true force feedback and more. So say, for example, if you're in a car that has ABS, you'll be able to hear that ABS activation through the pedal, which is pretty cool. Yeah,
it's I mean, it's a fantastic bit of kit. Of course, it's one thing that we've missed a little bit in sim racing, obviously, with how we've had wheel force feedback and obviously direct drives and all the stuff which has been coming through the works, which is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. I do sometimes feel, and I have thought this for a little while, that sometimes pedals are getting forgotten about. What's the innovation when it comes to pedals? This is the first major step towards having that real lifelike feel from the pedals. Absolutely fantastic. Like I say, not only have you got that force feedback, which is absolutely incredible, it removes some of the faff when it comes to maintenance, and that is one thing that as a sim racer, I know my pedals get a little bit worse to wear over time. Something like this makes it a lot easier just to sort out, just to get ahead of. I think it's a great little product, and I want one. So someone honestly, great bit of kit.
Maybe we'll just send a message to Simucube, just because we worked on this broadcast, can you just give us a free sample? Free sample of this. But yeah, it seems like very, very great technology, and of course coming soon at the moment, because they are currently open for taking emails for pre-sale So that's simucube.com/activepedal, all one words. They're open for get notified when pre-sales start, so you can try and get yourself first in the queue, I guess, because I get the feeling that this will be very, very popular amongst a lot of the sim drivers that may be watching this, maybe even amongst some of the pro drivers as well. But anyway, thank you very much to Simucube for sponsoring this particular round of the ROKiT British F4 Esports Championship. We're about to get ourselves, we're 35 seconds away from getting ourselves our starting grid then for race number 1. So as things stack up, it was a very successful qualifying session for Apex Racing Team and Plus Academy with Peter Berryman and Luke McEwen on the front row. But Josh Ladd sticking in P3, that's much better position for him compared to what happened last time.
Yeah, like I say, that's the most important thing around here. Getting out of that danger zone, right? That's where a few too many drivers I feel are in that danger zone, really between 5th and 15th. And you want to make sure when you're fighting for the championship, when you like to Josh Ladd, like I say, get out of that zone. To have the top 2 in the driver standing starting in 2nd and 3rd, I think that's going to be very, very important. But I will say someone starting in that danger zone, Jamie Fluke, only 8th. Maybe we have got a fully healthy Jamie Fluke with us this afternoon.
Perhaps. But here's your starting grid then for race number 1. It's Peter Berryman on pole position for Apex Racing Team with Luke McEwen, our championship leader, in 2nd place for the Apex Racing Academy. Then it's Monster Rugby Gaming's Josh Ladd in P3 with Ted Bradbury from YRDA Arden starting on the outside of the 2nd row there. Fantastic stuff from Bradbury. We've got Stanley Deslandis starting 5th with Pio Pev in 6th place for Team Futzilla Hybrid. And we've got Monster Rugby Gaming Car 32 on Alex Betts on P7 with Jamie Fluke in P8. Matt Caruana starts 9th with Dion Gowda in P10. Deegan Fairclough in P11 and Ollie Davis in P12. Ryan McAuliffe in P13 with Ethan Critchley P14. Liam McNeely in P15 with Joseph Loke in P16. James Armstrong 17th with Pete Harrod starting 18th here today. The 2 Mensa racing cars are occupy row 10. They're Mikhail Chase and Ruben Stanislaus. Monica Bolton Ramos will start in 21st for Racing Star. And then stand-in driver for Prismatic Motorsports, Bree Widener, will start on the final spot on the starting grid in P22. So you can see all the drivers getting themselves ready and prepared for the racing that they have to offer here today. Of course, remember, we are on the international layouts here at Silverstone. So going to be racing down towards the first corner, which is Cops, like the good old days, I suppose. 34 degrees on the track temp, so pretty warm as far as the UK is concerned, and very rare in terms of clear skies here at the moment. But we're about to get this Simucube round number 5 of the ROKiT British F4 Esports Championship underway. Those engine notes will rise, and off and away we go down towards Cobb's Corner. It's a good start from pole position. Josh Ladd immediately on the offensive as far as Luke McEwen is concerned as they race their way through the fast right-hander. Little bit of jostling for position further back though. Peo Pev trying to hold off Alexander Spetz, but Gowda's now coming back on Spetz here in towards Maggots and Beckett for the first time in this situation. Battle for the race lead going on though. Peter Berryman versus Luke McEwen with Ladd sticking his nose in there as well. Bradbury's going to get a good tow here coming down the straights, and well, he's going to angle himself towards the inside now. Still 2 by 2 as we head down into there. We're going to head 3 wide. Bradbury slinging it down and in. He's got himself up into the race lead. What a move from the number 53. Take a bow.
Yeah, that was absolutely super from Ted Bradbury. Perfect on the brakes going into Brooklands. This is what it's going to be like all the way through this race. He's done a great job to take over the race lead, but he's got a lot of challenge from behind. Of course, those 2 Apex Racing cars were still going side by side. McEwen now down into 3rd, but he has to worry about his championship rival. It's a big gaggle coming down to that first corner. Spetz also in there trying to get past Jamie Fluke, who's got up in the 4th spot. There's Landis also coming up with them. It's a pretty tough group in here.
Very tough group indeed, and there's still a battle for the race lead going on as we ride on board with Josh Ladd as he finds himself in the thick of things here as we angle ourselves on towards the Wellington Straight. Next braking zone is going to be down at Brooklands, which is going to be your big overtaking opportunity here today. Just asked Ted Bradbury just 1 lap ago, but 2 by 2 as they head into here. They are not giving this one up whatsoever. Fluke and McEwen going wheel to wheel ahead of Josh Ladd here. Lad secures himself ahead of his teammate of Spets, who's had a decent start out of this one, has Spets. So potentially some good points on offer here for Munster Rugby Gaming, as long as they can try and negotiate these Apex Racing cars ahead of them. And, well, Lad is certainly tempted to give it a go.
Yeah, Fluke had to back out of that one a little bit. It was on the outside of McEwen going through the first corner, and Josh Ladd's gone for the up and under, potentially out of Cop's corner on the run down towards one of realistically only 2 braking zones on the entire circuit. This one's the longer of the 2, but it goes into a much tighter corner down the inside. Ladd might well have made that one stick on Fluke, but he's then going to get a slipstream back up of his teammate. I think Berryman also might challenge coming down into Brooklands.
Yep, so Berryman's going for the race lead, and in fact Bradbury will let him through in that respect. There's a little differing lines on the way into Brooklands there in amongst this huge gaggle of cars, and that is probably the most appropriate term for it as we get ourselves a look here at Jamie Fluke as he tries to hold off the well, not quite hard charging just yet for Josh Ladd, but certainly looking very, very aggressive at this stage, trying to recover a couple of positions he lost off of the start to these Apex, well, to a good couple of cars actually, as they're side by side through Copper's corner. Gotta be careful about forcing the car wide there out onto that curb, but Fluke's able to keep it together.
Yeah, Fluke's just trying to slow these 2 Munster Rugby Gaming cars down. I will say might be ill because he's in a jumper, so you know, maybe he is feeling a touch ill. On board with Spets, who's got his teammate ahead. It's Apex on the left, it's Munster Rugby on the right, of course Academy and the main team fighting over on those left-hand side positions. There's Landis, who might well make his move on Spets to get up into 7th. Watch out, by the way, 8th place Deacon Fairclough, who's behind this. Watch out for him to get a bit elbows out to try and get themselves amongst the Apex Racing team and Munster Rugby Gaming cars. You can see Spets with a slightly slower launch off of Luffield. The advantage goes to his Landers. I think Fairclough might try something down into Cops, into T1. Might back out of it, but I know what Fairclough's like. He does back out. I'm impressed.
Wow, that's rare. But fantastic racing that we're having here in the first couple of laps of race number 1. Remember, we still have 26 minutes of this one to go, plus another race. So there's certainly no shortage of action here. Oh, no, I've just seen, well, my view of things, what has happened behind this entire grouping. And, well, there was a car up and over there in that situation. I believe it was Caruana who dropped well down the order there in that one. And I think there might be afters as well as they come together once again further down the order. But there's a battle going on. Spets and Dislandis going wheel to wheel. Through they go. And, well, let's see if the Apex Academy car has the space on the outside. Yes, it does.
I think that issue there, yeah, Deacon Fairclough with a lock-up. Whoa, that is a big send-over for Caruana. And that'll be Deacon Fairclough with a broken car straight back into pit lane for the Racing Star team. So, I mean, we said before, Deacon Fairclough's got some absolutely incredible pace. The racecraft is lacking a little bit. But again, he's young, he's learning, and I can't wait to see him out on the grid in 2023. Back over to this move, 6th position, Bislanis, Spets, McAuliffe also now part of it.
Yeah, and well, it's a little bit of a 2-car breakaway slightly at the very front of the field. McEwen is still keeping himself in that leading train here for the moment as Mikulev gets himself down the inside of this Landers. Mikulev sliding about all over the place through Brooklands and now in towards Luffield. McNeely takes the initiative, takes the opportunity and tries to go down the inside, but doesn't have the grip off the corner required to be able to make that move complete. Ethan Critchley actually, I saw go down towards the pit lane there.
Yeah, I think, again, more damage, I'm going to take a wild guess, but I think what we've seen is that some of these cars, and obviously everyone's got different mentalities of how to take on this race. Some are going full attack from the start, some are playing the longer game immediately, and it's creating a bit of a gap between the top 3 and everyone behind. You can see it's a 1.3 second gap between Fluke and McEwen. I think Fluke will be able to catch that one back up, but if he doesn't have any attacks behind. That's where Josh Ladd needs to honestly not attack. If he wants to win this race, Josh Ladd needs to not attack Jamie Fluke right now. He needs to play the long game and stay in the stick. But of course, he's not going to do that at all. They're racing drivers after all. But this is going to cost them half a second, maybe even towards a full second by the time they come around. And he's not even made the position. So is it worth it? And I've also got to say, another car in this train who was looking really good in practice coming into this. 9th place, McNeely in that Ford Zilla car. Watch out for McNeely. Actually looking really good on pace around it.
Really good on pace indeed, and well, we continue to track the progress Here's more wheel-to-wheel action into Maggots and swinging into Beckett and getting yourself through the cut-through. Out onto Jamie Fluke actually rode the curb a little bit there, lost a lot of ground. So that means the Monster Rugby Gaming cars are through, and in fact the Apex Racing Academy car of Deslandes also trying to make something of it down in towards Brooklands as well. Jamie Fluke, you'll continue to fight this one out with the sister car, of course. You know, Apex's goal is to get you know, one of the two teams or get themselves even the 1-2 finish in the championship at the end of the day. But when you have the two Monster Rugby Gaming cars ahead of both of them in this situation, perhaps it might be more advisable just to calm down and not fight that one too much.
Yeah, it is quite a gaggle here. And like you say, they've now lost 2 seconds to that leader. There is the move to the inside. McNeely getting past McAuliffe. Armstrong. I said before, Armstrong, that JHR Developments car, I mean, he may not have qualified quite well, but he's done well to drag himself into this train. Pev, the Bulgarian, directly behind. We might get a little bit elbows out of this train. But it's quite a long one between 4th and 11th spot. Before they get back to Bree Widener, who will be coming through the back of shot there of the Prismatic Motorsports car, who is just looking for a couple of issues in this train, and then they'll be scoring some pretty well-deserved points. Keep your nose clean, keep out of trouble in this round. That is king above everything else.
Yeah, it's easier said than done, though, especially when you have the temptation of all those positions ahead of you. Say if you're in a situation like, well, Armstrong is at the moment as we're riding on board with him. You see a train of cars ahead of you. You as a racing driver, you get excited, don't you? It's like, oh my god, I can try and pull off so many passes to try and climb myself through this order. But sometimes you get in over your heads, and it ends up in a very, very big accident, especially given the type of racing that's on display here at the moment in terms of the draft block, shall we say. So opportunities are easy to come by, but execution perhaps a little bit more difficult. And of course, going wheel to wheel means you start to lose track of the cars ahead as well. That's what the leading peloton here at the moment, not quite the leading cars, but the main grouping of them, to steal a cycling term, as we're on board with McAuliffe, and that's been McNeely down the inside of Fluke, forces Fluke wide. Fluke's able to maintain the position though. McAuliffe trying to pick up the pieces out of this one. Going to get himself a very good drive off of Lovefield, but he's got to deal with James Armstrong, who's stuck his nose in there through Woodcut. So as soon as you try and capitalize on anything ahead of you, all of a sudden there's cars behind also looking to try and beep head their way through.
Yeah, the most important person, I feel like, I've always said this, you know, when it comes to tracks like this, the most important person to see whether you're going to catch the grouping ahead or whatever, or be caught by the grouping behind, is actually the second car in train. Out wide again, Specs goes. He's going to lose that to Deslandes and to Fluke. It won't be too much of a major towards this train's pace, because again, I've said before, it's the first and the second car, those are the deciders. And right now, I will say in this group, Bradbury did it really well back in Donington, unfortunately before a bit of an issue late on. Doing a very similar thing, sitting in second spot, or you know, in this case, dropping back into third, not panicking, not worrying. Actually, a very mature drive, letting the other two get on with it a touch. I think is absolute genius, because he's let Berryman get on with his pace, and I think he's the one almost. I'd almost put him as the one more responsible as to why that train is 2 seconds clear of this one, because they haven't been fighting.
No, they haven't. It's been a very, very calm affair in your leading trio, and you know they've reaped the rewards, haven't they, Lewis? It's Josh Ladd can't really do anything from that far back. Deslandes, neither can Fluke or Specs, because they've all been having this intra-group battle, and they've lost sight of the lead cars here at the moment. It's not impossible for them to get organized and catch back up, but with the way things are going at the moment, with noses being shown left, right, and center down into these braking zones, it's probably not going to happen.
I think you'd be a very brave person to count this train out from catching the leaders. We've seen it. We saw it at Alton Park, you know, even there, where the top 2 or 3 had cleared away, and then they were still caught. There's 18 minutes and 50 seconds left to go in this race. If this train stops fighting and basically continue on what they're doing now, if Josh Ladd has some decent pace in him, especially if the top 3 do start squabbling just a touch. We're not halfway through this race yet. That gap's gone up to over 2 seconds. There's no reason why it couldn't come down from it as well, especially when you get towards that region of it being around about a second and a half, because then you start getting the slipstream. This, though, will not help them. This lands over the rear end of Ladd, and he's going to attack. This is going to completely cancel it.
Yep, Deslandes attempts to go the long way around. not going to get the ground required, and actually will come under threat from his teammate around the outside of Luffield. Can Fluke hang it around there? It's so difficult to do, even on the best of occasions, but absolutely dead level coming off the corner through ROKiT, and the Snipers will gain a slight advantage by being on the inside of that right-hand kink and maintaining the inside through Cop's corner. But here comes Spets, making it 3 wide through Cops. That's not a smart idea, but somehow they've all been able to make it work. We've got 4 wide because Liam McNeely decides to pull the outside on all of them, and he gets past all of them as well. What a move from the 48. Oh, look at this. Still 3 wide through Maggots and Beckett's, and onto the straight they come.
This is going to end it. This is going to end in tears. I can just see it. I've seen it time and time again, and you know it. When you're in the middle of it, you're like, yeah, this can't last. This cannot last. We're on board with Armstrong there. There's McNeely taking the defensive line to try and hang off Spets, who's trying to go around the outside, side by side between the 2 Apex Racing cars of Deslandis and Fluke as well. Behind that, you've got McAuliffe, you've got Armstrong, you've got Pev waiting for his opportunity to join into this fight. Josh Ladd's checked out by over a second. McNeely was absolutely brilliant through the first sector of the previous lap, and now is just about hanging on to the leaders group. But of course, with the overspeed, it's going to be Specs tackling into the first corner.
Yeah, it is. They've got lap traffic as well. Ramos gets herself to the inside, so it won't be a major factor in this one as Specs again looks down the left-hand side, driver's left-hand side of McNeely. So McNeely has a big job to do here, given the situation, given passing all of those cars in the same corner around the outside, 4 wide at Cops, which I can't believe I'm saying. They're free ride right now on the way down the Wellington Straight in towards Brooklyn. So, yeah, these guys are deciding that a podium finish is probably not for them at the moment because they're fighting so hard. Deslander's in the thick of it. He's trying to go and find some ground around the outside of Spets, but not successful. McAuliffe trying to rattle his cage a little bit, but again, getting nothing done in that instance. And Fluke is just getting perhaps a little bit frustrated here at the moment.
Yeah, you got to say this is exactly what we were expecting, to be honest, from a round like this. It's just madness. That, like I say, none of these want a podium very clearly. We've almost guaranteed who will be interviewing between the 2 races, because right now it's definitely going to be between Berryman, McEwen and Bradbury, because Ladd's too far off, and this train, they don't want to be a part of it. McNeely again hanging on from Spets, Deslandis, McAuliffe, Fluke, Pev, Armstrong, all involved in this train. A bit of a connection issue there for McNeely at the head of the train here. Josh Ladd, like you say, is absolutely gone. 1.1 seconds clear of this train. Still not impossible to be caught, but if they're fighting like this, unlikely to be caught.
Yeah, the longer this goes on, the chances of any of these guys getting a podium, well, start to slide down the rankings a little bit, unless there's an issue in that leading trio in the final couple of laps when, for example, Bradbury might want to push on and get a step or 2 higher on the podium. But again, it's always sketchy when it's side by side through Cop's corner, but it is the 2 sister cars, Jamie Fluke and Stanley Deslanders, so they definitely will give each other enough room to try and make that one work, lest there be an awkward moment, an awkward conversation in the team speak, or the Discord, as it tends to be these days.
I will say, with these cars going side by side at Cops, probably actually isn't as crazy, because they've got quite a lot of downforce, and they've only got 160 brake horsepower, because it's not actually getting up to too much speed going down into that first corner at Cops. It means it's, while side by side is all right, you know, it's not crazy, but then when you ride on board with Fluke going through Brooklyn, you think, wow, he was catching quite a few slides in the middle of that. Maybe there's a couple more questions to be laid to rest. Looking backwards towards Pev as he's still side by side with Deslandis onto the start-finish straight. We'll ride on board with Pev through that first corner. Surely not going to make it 3 wide. Let's see if there's going to be any crazy steering inputs from the Bulgarian. Turns it in. It's just one nice smooth movement. And I think they're not at the absolute limit of grip, that they're actually okay to kind of run through there, even side by side, without losing too much time. It's down here where the side by sides are constantly losing.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a couple of laps ago that they were 3 wide into Cops and somehow came out 4 wide. You know, that I'm still not entirely sure how that happened. But things, dare I say, calming down a little bit as the pack has been split up a little bit on the way down in towards Brooklyn, because the fighting of the sister cars of Fluke and Deslanders has sort of split this group down the middle as McNeely, Spets and McAuliffe are all trying to run away. And in fact, they're trying to make sure Josh Ladd doesn't get too far down the road. And whoa, was there contact there actually?
Yeah, there was.
Whoa,
there
Spets
was.
to the back of McNeely.
I think he was going for the bump draft, which you can do in this car. I mean, it's not ideal, but you can do it. I think misjudged the speed differential between Spets himself and McNeely. That was a sizable bit of contact that might actually damage the rear end of McNeely's car and make it slightly more sketchy going through corners. To be fair, going through medium speed corners, of which there is only one on this circuit, so in that sense might actually be okay going through Brooklands. But yeah, that might not be ideal. Bradbury and McEwen switch over. We'll look at the race lead when it's completely relevant, because they're just switching over between the three of them. It's nothing crazy, and it's at this point, unless any big drama happens, it is going to be one of those three that will win this race. With 12.5 minutes, Josh Ladd definitely cannot catch.
Yeah, and well, Ladd's in a bit of no man's land here at the moment, because he's, 4 seconds behind the leading trio, and he's a good, let's see, around about second or so ahead of McNeely, McAuliffe, and Spets. So he's running a race on his own here for the moment. He's got to be careful that the group behind him don't get too organised and start reeling him in, as seems to happen in these sorts of races. Again, we've had a little bit of a calmer period over the past couple of minutes than we've had for the vast majority of this race so far. And remember, this is not the only race that we're having here today either. We've got race 2 coming up, and that will be involving a reverse grid as well. So that's just another little random element to throw in there to try and make things even more spicy when the pap's a little bit too hot already.
Yeah, you think this race is pretty crazy. Wait until we get going. Wait another 40 minutes or a half hour until we get going in that second race, because we will be in serious crazy, especially if the number's 10. And now, I would normally be one of the people to be like, 10. Let's see that number out to be the craziest reverse grid. Whereas around here, I'm just like, nah, why not? I want to see 10. I just want to see. I've woken up and I've just chosen chaos, and that's where we are at the moment. Inside, McNeely still hanging on from McAuliffe, and of course the inside line being taken by Spets. Could actually be a good round, by the way, for the Munster Rugby Gaming team to get themselves back in towards the title challenge. If they can get Spets towards the front of the train without dragging through Fluke and this Landesliga on board with now as they're 3 wide. Of course they are, in the group.
Yeah, and washing out there is McNeely. He's able to make sure he stays on the grey stuff there and hold that inside through Luffield. It's triggered a fight behind between Mikulev and Spets, though. We're getting the view of Stanley Deslandes. Oh, that Munster Rugby Gaming car almost getting pinched into the pit wall there as we head our way down in towards Cops Corner once again. Wheel to wheel through this very, very fast right-hander. Famous corner, of course, and well, every corner around this track is very famous, let's be honest. But we're coming up towards 10 minutes left to go. Things still very much undecided here in this grouping, and well, dare I say it, are still not decided. I mean, amongst the top 3 as well. They got to start fighting at some point, surely.
Yeah, it kind of. The real time and stuff like January will probably about 2 laps to go. You see them switch over a few times until that point. But the real fight will come with 2 laps to go. That's when it all really start to switch up quite a bit. Fluke around the outside of McAuliffe, getting squeezed off just a touch, but he wasn't really there, so all's fair in that one. And of course, sat at the rear end of this train, looking for a way into it is now Spets, and Armstrong and Pev both have dropped right off the rear end of this train. If they want to get back in it, they need to not fight between the two of them and just focus on the slipstream. No mistakes.
Deslanders, they're the ones actively fighting out there through Cobb's corner, but Deslanders will have the upper hand in this instance, keeps himself ahead. This is so important for the Apex Academy car to not to make the points delta a little bit better to Munster Rugby Gaming. Spets is definitely the one that has the more pressure on his shoulders here at the moment, because his teammate Josh Ladd is doing a good job. He's up into 4th place. But it would really help Munster Rugby Gaming if Spets was able to gain these couple of positions, get to the head of this train, and make sure the team's in a better position in the championship. Right now, it's a very, very big ask, especially when he loses grip through the middle of Luffield and Deslanders is able to come back at him.
Yeah, knowing how good Spets is, I think it shows even more how impressive the drive this season has been from Josh Ladd. I mean, we all know Spets is a quality driver, but you said it earlier on, between the two of them, Ladd has been by far the stronger of the two. It's why he's in the target, and just why he's up the order in this race comparatively to his teammate. They've both done an incredible job, the Williams-backed team, but it does really seem to be falling on one shoulder, and McNeely's been sent round by McAuliffe right ahead of the train.
Indeed he has. Oh no, that is not what the doctor ordered. And well, the battles continue on the live pictures as well as Dislanders trying to fend off Spets, with Fluke trying to go around the outside of McKellar in through Brooklands and swing their way in towards Luffield. Dislanders, yeah, he's put up a good defense so far up against Spets, as we see what happens on the replay. Oh, it's just a lazy one, isn't it?
See, that one's tricky because it's less, honestly, like seeing it from that replay from that angle, it's less bad than I thought. McAuliffe is just McNeely kind of comes across the nose of McAuliffe when he'd already committed, but he's not there. It's not an overlap, and there is, in my opinion, there's only one person at fault in that. But it's kind of one of those ones where I'd look at it and be like, I mean, you gave it a good go, but it was just this time misjudged, and it is on McAuliffe's shoulders. Sorry,
I just noticed that Dislanders could just completely sent one there on Jamie Fluke. Wasn't successful in it, and it might have compromised him here into the braking zone, because Spets is now able to at least have a look to the inside and get himself some good drive off the corner, as Dislanders had to wash out a little bit, but hanging around the outside of Luffield has been the tricky task of the day, it seems. It doesn't look like a lot of these cars are too comfortable with being out there and attempting to get the drive off the corner required to make this a challenge in towards Cops. Spets is still going to go for this. They're also fighting ahead as well. But yeah, I have no idea how this little train is going to turn out. I even have no idea how the leading trio is going to turn out at this rate as well. We've got almost 6.5 minutes left to go. Fluke down the inside of McAuliffe, gets that position done, and he overcooked it though. Oh, he slides coming off the corner. McAuliffe is able to get himself back underneath.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy in this battle, and like I say, it will be between the race leaders as well. And anyone who's sat there being like, "Whoa, Armstrong, hello!" Anyone who's sat there thinking like, "This is unrealistic," this is how they race in real life. I was actually here in Silverstone for this round in real life. I said not as a driver, don't worry, or I was just sat here watching as a fan. And yeah, it's pretty much like this. There is a lot of dive bombs going into Brooklands. There's a lot of side-by-side. There's a lot of risky racing, and that is absolutely spot on. Loving it right now, as we can see. Fluke attacking McAuliffe at the front of this train, who is definitely damaged in that car. Although Fluke has been wrong-footed, and his teammate Dislanders has come through. Spets might do also.
We'll have to wait and see, though. There's still just over 5 minutes of this race left to go. Fluke out very, very wide indeed. Spets looking to try and gain this position. And, well, it feels like Spets has just been banging his head on a brick wall for the past 15 laps or so, because no matter what he tries, no matter how hard he tries to go for these moves, they're not really coming off right now. And in fact, he's lost a position there to James Armstrong in towards this section. Armstrong gets the back end out a little bit, gets the back end out again, and Spets is able to come back and through. But down towards the pit lane goes Jamie Fluke. Down towards the pit lane goes McAuliffe. Instant limits.
Wow. Who else is close? This is the thing, is around here, as Bradbury's going to take over the race lead from Berryman. Who else is close? Because you can get easily one incident point exit and running T1. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, this is how hard these guys have been fighting, and a lot of them have been pushing out wide, getting that one instant point pretty much every single lap, and they only have 15 to work with here. So that changes everything as far as that mid-pack is concerned. And who's in the points now? We've got Pete Harrod getting himself in the point. We've got Whitener getting themselves in as well into a top 10 finish for Prismatic. And we've also got, well, McAuliffe has come out behind them, but by a significant margin. So this is changed the complexion in terms of points-paying positions here for the moment. We're riding on board with Luke McEwen as all of a sudden the leading pack starts to try and fight.
Yeah, this is now absolutely on. Bradbury's retaken over the race lead. There'll be about 5 laps left to go. And the YRDA Arden car is at the front of the field. Berryman and McEwen sat there behind. McEwen, of course, focused not only on the team championship, but on the driver's side of things as well. He sat there behind his teammate, Peter Berryman, who's going to try and get to the outside, go to the Brooklands. And this fight is on. If they do fight hard enough, Josh Ladd might come back into it. But I feel a bit bad for Bradbury here. He's going to have to fight against 2 Apex Racing Team cars. Now, as we head on to the penultimate and final laps, I don't think they'll be teaming up quite as much. It will turn into a bit of a mercenary fight.
Yeah, I think so too. It is Bradbury that leads for the moment, though, but he's has to hold on for a couple more laps for him to try and take the race win at the end. Here comes McEwen. Oh, a little bit of miscommunication between the Apex cars there as well. It's McEwen had to sort of lift out of things because of a slight movement from Berryman down the straight there. So the Apex cars perhaps not really on the same page when it comes to this at the moment, which makes this battle infinitely more interesting.
This is very interesting even now. 3 minutes left to go. Like I say, 4 laps with it being just such a short 50-second lap. There is Josh Ladd, who's sat there thinking, these lot are starting to fight. Maybe something's going to happen. Maybe I am going to be a part of it. Berryman gets to the outside, but Bradbury holds a defensive line. I've got to say, genuinely, at least so far in the opening 27 minutes and 20 seconds of this race, I have been very, very impressed with Ted Bradbury right here in this race. Has timed everything so well, had a great move to get up to the race lead, has just waited. I mean, all 3 of these are worthy of victory, but I feel Bradbury's really got it right now.
It's the YRDA Arden car that leads the 2 Apex machines around here at the moment. Technically 3 teams represented within this top 3. But of course, we know the Apex Racing team and the Academy from the same outfit. But here comes Peter Berryman then for the race lead into the Maggots and Beckett section. Not going to get anything done through the first part. Looks for the drive and the angle off the corner as well. Oh, he's just about got a slight overlap on the way down the Wellington straight. He'll get a push from his teammate, and you can see how that's affected things on the way in towards the braking zone. Bradbury has the preferred line into here. As long as he doesn't gift Berryman the inside for Luffield, which he doesn't, he should be okay for another lap.
Yeah, we are really ticking down the clock. I was saying it might be 3 laps. I think it's just a 2 now, because obviously with it being 1 minute and 38 seconds, it's definitely going to be 2 laps. We're heading on to the penultimate one. They'll definitely know this inside the car. They've already done the maths and stuff. They'll have worked it out. Bradbury holds defensive line. The outside one being taken by Berryman. Once again, Bradbury will hang on to the race lead, but the up and under might well work. The defensive perfection at the moment for Bradbury. Berryman is struggling everything to get his way through, but it's all about that proactive defense that Bradbury's doing. It is just being able to handle the Apex Racing team at the moment. Still the up and under potentially might work here. He's got to send it all the way around the outside of Brooklyn though.
Start the Jaws music, because we got Josh Ladd in the background closing in on these guys like a rate of knots as well. So the harder they find, the more Josh Ladd comes back into things. Bradbury's doing very well to hold on to this race lead at the moment. It's an exemplary defensive drive so far. Berryman has yet to try and find a way through. He gets a bit of mid-corner speed there through Luffield, has to lift out of it so he doesn't run into the back of Bradbury through the middle of the corner. 42 seconds left as they cross the line. This is going to be the start of the final lap as Peter Berryman looks to the outside for Copse Corner. We've seen this be attempted so many times over the course of this race, but Bradbury's overcooked it. He has to try and push all the way wide, and now here comes Peter Berryman. He's got an overlap on driver's left-hand side in towards Maggots, into Beckett. It's a big wide arc here from Berryman. Has Bradbury overcooked it? I think he has. He slots back into second place as Berryman takes the race lead, and here comes McEwen all into the grass there down the Wellington straight. Oh, he's trying to wrench that inside away. Not going to come good for him though. Battle of the late breakers in towards Brooklands. Bradbury's still not out of this one, by the way, as they head their way through Luffield for the final time. Berryman looking to try and nail the throttle, make sure he doesn't get any wheel spin that will give this race win away. But as they charge to the line, it is Apex Racing Team. It is Peter Berryman that takes the race win here at Silverstone for race 1.
Yeah, see Bradbury from Berryman. Bradbury, though, was wise. That is not good, though, from Widener. That is not good. That is not a solid move. Might have been chopped off a little bit there by Harrod, though, but no points-paying position. It was going to be the final points-paying position, but now McAuliffe, after the drive-through, moves himself up into 10th and might well be in for that reverse grid spot.
Yeah. Oh, that's unfortunate there through the final corner as we get ourselves the rest of the runners through and across the line. As a result of that, Mikulev gets himself the final points-paying position. But what a race. What a first race we've had here at Silverstone. We're not done here today, by the way. We've got another 30-minute race involving a reverse grid coming up. Oh, we're going to have to take a breather at some point. Here's the reverse grid, though. We've typically had quite low reverse grids so far over the course of this season. We had a couple of 5-place reverse grids, the lowest that we have. But potentially we might have it again, or we might get ourselves 7. Is it going to stop? No, it's not going to stop on 7. It's another 5-place reverse grid. It seems like this wheel is biased, Lewis.
Yeah,
I'm not suggesting that at all, by the way.
It didn't want us to have 10 there. I saw it going towards 10, but no, it skated past, and so Deslamis will have the reverse grid pole.
Here we go. Those are the unofficial results. I gotta say, very unofficial at this stage, depending on post-race actions from the race administrators and the race stewards. But Peter Berryman takes the race win from Ted Bradbury, who gave it his all. And in the end, it was a margin less than 1/10 of a second at the line for Bradbury. So again, a very good effort from the YRDA Arden driver. Luke McEwen, our championship leader, 3rd place here. Final step on the podium. Josh Ladd's, of course, in a bit of no man's land throughout most of this race. He finishes almost 2 seconds back off the race leader in 4th. Stanley Deslandis in 5th with Alex Betts in P6. Peo Pevin P7 with Armstrong 8th. Pete Harrod P9. And Mikalev P10 as our last points paying position. Jamie Fluke drops down into P11. Not ideal for the Apex Racing team. Liam McNeely, P12, with Ethan Critchley, P13, Bria Widener, P14 after what could have been a single point, potentially for the number 83 after trying to fight it out with Pete Harrod at the end there, but unfortunately having an incident. We got Monica Ramos actually getting herself up into 15th place here. First driver a lap down as well. Deegan Fairclough, his season can be summed up by this race, I think. Looking very, very quick, but unfortunately another incident for the number 87. Mac Caruana P17 with Dion Gowda P18, Carl Chase P19, Joseph Loke P20. He's 31 laps down in that instance. And we see the drivers at the very, very back that had problems early on. Ruben Stanislaus and Ollie Davis will finish P21 and P22. And what makes it worse is that they'll have to start from that position in race 2 as well.
Yeah, everyone below 5th will be starting in the same positions, which I say 6th, 7th, 8th. Yeah, it's a bit irritating, but that's fair enough. When you start in 15th, 20th, when you start in 11th, the likes of Jamie Fluke, you're in for a little bit of a frustrating race potentially. I think that's one thing to tell us that maybe Jamie Fluke is actually feeling 100% fit and healthy, because it just didn't look quite as... I think he got involved too much in that mid-pack, and that's the problem around here, is that when you're in that mid-pack, you almost can't escape the front of it. You're always a part of it. It's like an elastic band. You just can't break out of it, and you just see the top 3 clearing away, and yeah, it's just how it goes.
Yeah, that is just how it goes. But it was interesting seeing that breakaway so early on as well. And that's not going to be a guarantee as we're going to head into race 2, especially with the reverse grid. It might happen if one of the faster drivers gets to the front within the first lap or 2 and then tries to break away with clear air pace, as some of the drivers have demonstrated so far. But it's certainly not a guarantee. So this is going to be a very, very big cluster here in this second race. Of course, we are waiting for the drivers to get themselves ready and to speak to us, and indeed they are ready. So, Lewis, you're standing by with our race winner of Peter Berryman.
Yeah, indeed. Let's have a quick little chinwag. We were talking last round about how this was the one that everyone was looking at as being a little bit crazy. Was it as crazy as you thought, or was it actually a little bit calmer? The top 3 seemed to clear away from everyone.
Yeah, for us three at the front, definitely not so crazy. I think the 3 of us knew what was going on. We had a bit of a breakaway, and then we sort of just worked together. And then, as you see in the last few laps, we kind of have a bit of a scrap for it. Yeah, got to say thanks to Luke, obviously playing a bit of the team game there. He easily could have fought for the win as well, but obviously all being in the same channel, we could hear the chaos going on behind. So yeah, just tried to maximize the team points as much as we could.
How much do you hear? Like, is it just an open mic between yourselves, Jamie, Stanley, of course, and Luke, who was up there with you? But are you hearing everything about what's going on? Because I would assume that those two are communicating a fair amount in that train.
Yeah, I mean, we all have mute buttons, so if I really wanted to, I could deafen. But at least for myself, I think it's kind of good to know what's going on behind as well. Obviously, I could hear that those guys were fighting hard, and then getting the feedback from the guys on lap times, we knew that we were pulling away. So yeah, sometimes in the right situations, it's maybe good to mute and not hear so much so you can focus. But yeah, in these races, I think it's good to sort of get an idea of what's going on around you.
Now, when it comes to that final couple of laps where you were really battling it out with Ted, and obviously slightly less so with Luke, obviously teammate and whatnot, were you going into it pretty confident that you could have one over on Ted Bradbury, knowing that he is fast, he is a bit aggressive? Were you kind of prepared on that? Were you watch some of the races earlier on the season to understand what kind of driver he is, or is it just kind of like just race it?
I mean, initially at the start of the race, I sort of was a bit worried that maybe he would fight, given that he's tended to fight a bit hard at the start of races beforehand. But I think within the first few laps, I've seen that he was straight away wanting to work with us. So I think that I sort of knew in my head that it would come down to the last 4, 5, 6 laps before we'd start fighting. And yeah, I think after the first few attempts we were fighting side by side, I think I sort of lost the doubts started to creep in a little bit that this is going to be tough to make the move, because Ted was defending well and he was only giving me the outside, and it's very, very hard to make it on the outside, especially I'd led so many laps at the front, so my tires tend to be a bit hotter than the rest of the guys who can sort of use the slipstream and just lift off and save their tires a bit more. So I knew it'd be tough, but the last lap there, Ted a little bit lost his braking point in T3 and sort of ended up handing it to me essentially in the end.
Well, finally, the reverse grid is 5, by the way, so you'll be starting from 5th position. What's the goal from there? Is just keeping the nose clean, or are we looking for a bit of a double here at Silverstone?
I mean, I like to say survive, but I think the racer in me, if the gaps are there, I think I'll probably go for them. But we'll see what happens.
All right, cheers, Peter. We'll let you get back into the mindset. Super effort.
Thanks, guys.
There we go. A well-deserved victory for Peter Berryman. We're joined now by 2nd position in that race. Ted Bradbury did lead a couple of laps, including putting on one of the better moves that we've seen all season early on in the race. I mean, talk us through it, like the mentality to try and put on a move like that, and then to basically just not fight Peter Berryman for quite a bit in that race, just to allow the train to pull away. Where'd you get that mentality from?
It was a great race. Obviously, at the start, I got a big slipstream, saw the gap and went for it. It was great, to be honest. Like Peter Berryman, he's obviously known to be very fast, and so is Luke. So I decided to work with him. As they started to make more mistakes as the race went on, I capitalized on it and went for the win. But a silly mistake at the end cost me the win, but it was a good race.
Does that kind of make it a little bit sour, that mistake, or is it still just kind of like, do you know what? Let's put that to one side. It's decent points and got great pace, and a second race coming up.
I'm moving on to the next race. I'm prepared to win, as I am the whole championship. I'm representing my team, YDA, and I'm happy that we're up there with the big esports teams. So yeah.
Now, you've got, I'd say anyway, a touch more experience on this car. I've seen you racing it quite a bit, just in the fixed and the open setups and stuff. Do you think that experience is helping you in this, or do you think that, like you say, the big esports teams, when it comes to a championship, there's even that experience doesn't really matter because of the amount of practice and preparation they put in?
Yeah, it definitely helps with like knowing how the car handles over a race distance. This has obviously got 10 minutes extra to a standard race in F4. But like it's completely different with the setups and everything. So it took us a while to find the setup, but we finally found it thanks to my team and my teammates for helping me out with that.
And finally, I asked the same question that I asked Peter. The reverse grid is 5, so it's the smallest that we've got on offer. So you'll be starting from 4th spot. Is it a win, or is this going to be a little bit more of a calm drive? Or you're a racing driver, surely.
To be honest, I'm here to win and nothing less. So representing my team, and we're here to win and nothing less.
Super stuff, Ted. We'll let you get back to it.
Thank you.
And finally, we'll be joined by Luke McEwen, of course, points leader coming into this. Obviously, still the points leader, hanging on to that quite nicely at the moment. Was that in your mind throughout that race at all, or were you still just going at it against Ted and Peter?
No, I think the main objective was just to kind of chill. Like, it's nice to have get a break at the start, so we didn't have like masses of fighting. But yeah, there's so little points between 2nd and 3rd. I think it's like 3, so there was not. I don't want to take massive risks going for moves when I can just sit there and gain points on the Josh lad still. So yeah.
Obviously, again, we've said before, this is from the prizes point of view, it is obviously more focused towards a teams aspect. But with you being involved in that drivers' championship, you're very much focused. And obviously, teams wise, you want to make sure the teams win. But that personal focus from you surely is there to 110%. You want to win this championship as a driver.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I do want to win it as a driver, but also want to win it as a team as well, or at least get a 1-2 in the team championships with both the Apex teams. And yeah, Stan did a great job getting P5, which looked like a bit of a scrap behind, so he's done a good job there to kind of get best of the rest who didn't break away. So yeah.
Was it expected that the breakaway would happen at the front? Was it expected that you were going to have a 3 or 4 car breakaway, or were you kind of expecting it to be more of a train?
I don't know. I think there was going to be maybe, because I think Donington, some of the races, like I think it was race 2, like 1 or 2 people got away. So I was thinking maybe the same, but this track is even more slipstream than Donington. So part of me was thinking it's just going to be like a scrap to the end. Anyone can win it, really.
And finally, how hard is this car to actually race around here? Of course, whilst that slipstream plays a key part in it, you can end up, as we saw before in that train behind, you can end up losing time by just trying to take advantage of the slipstream. How hard is it to keep that tactical mind set in the race?
Yeah, it's really tough. It's almost like send or get sent in a way from the people behind. So if you're trying to just like take it careful, you're going to get overtaken left, right, and center. You kind of just got to get stuck in. But yeah, we'll see how that is in the second race.
Yeah, we'll leave you to it. Championship leader Luke McKeown with another podium to add to his name. Super stuff.
Cheers.
There we go, Connery. Had a chat there with our top 3. That super effort from all 3 of them, and a great show they put on, particularly in those final few laps. I mean, that final lap was absolutely super.
It was mega. It was absolutely mega. And for Bradbury in particular, he almost did everything right until that final lap. It was a stellar defense up until that point once he got himself up into the race leads. But you know, that's not taking anything away from what Pierre Berryman was able to do. That was an awesome move to be able to put Bradbury off his game and then come straight back at him. So you know, the complexion has changed a little bit though heading into this race too, because again we have another small reverse grid. So you know, we haven't really had much experience over the course of this season of having a larger reverse grid, like a full 10 reverse grid. So that's an interesting one. So this is what these drivers have always known, kind of at the moment. So it's definitely not a surprise to them. So I guess they might just be more used to it. And at least for those front 3, they're not starting too far behind the race leader once again here in this second race. So it must be a very, very comfortable position for them. As comfortable as it can be in a race like we just had.
Yeah, which, I mean, to be fair, you say that about the reverse grid. It's kind of one of those weird things. We started off with the largest reverse grid that we could get. Because obviously in the first round of the championship, we had the full 10. And then from that point on, we've not seen it. It's been a lot.
Five.
Exactly. It's been a lot of car, maybe the odd 6 and 7 in there, but it's been a lot of the smaller ones. I genuinely think around here, a smaller reverse grid, everyone would be like, oh, well, surely a smaller reverse grid's better. And I think, no, actually not. The reason being is those that are 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, those that are missed out on the reverse grid, of course, 6th grid in there as well. I can count, don't worry. Those that missed out, they'll be more desperate. They'll be more like irritated by the fact of, oh, the reverse grid, of course, it's not going to be my number, is it? And so they're going to be more desperate, more hungry, more focused on moving forward, which that can be a very dangerous prospect from that mid pack. I do fear for some of the drivers starting towards the back there, even those that are outside it, like Jamie Fluke, who of course are looking for the team's championship, same along with Deslandis and Spets, that will be starting in that kind of pack that haven't been reversed. They'll be starting in there and kind of a little bit concerned as to what's actually going to happen in that train ahead. Deslandis actually is reversed into pole, so never mind.
Yeah, so you know, the point still remains for those drivers that did narrowly miss out. It potentially might be a very, very chaotic race start. Let's just say that, especially considering if some of them might think the same thing in race 1 might happen in race 2 with a front 3 or front 4 car breakaway. You want to be in it to win it, right? You want to be in that leading pack, no matter what. And you know, that might be the attitude that some drivers will take into today and into this race, excuse me. And as a result, lap 1, 2, 3, 4 might end up being just an absolute palaver, which is my favorite word. But again,
Great
we'll just
words.
have to wait and see. We can't guarantee anything for the moment. But of course, what we can guarantee is a very big thanks to our sponsor, Linus Tech Tips. Eat your heart out. Simucube, of course, our title sponsor of this race here at Silverstone. Of course, they have a new product coming out, which is their active pedal, which is basically a completely new philosophy when it comes to sim racing pedal design, where you're able to adjust the brake force amongst other parameters in the software, and of course, the actual maintenance you need to do to the pedal is very minimal. And of course, you do have force feedback coming through there as well. So it's in a way a revolutionary new product. But of course, no release date just yet. You can sign up on the Simucube website to be able to get notification about when the pre-orders open for the new active pedal. But it's fantastic that we've got Simucube support on this particular broadcast. Of course, we have ROKiT as a title sponsor of the entire season. Of course, they do so in the real world as well. Thank you very much for their support. Base Performance as well, getting themselves involved here in the ROKiT British F4 Esports Championship. Same with VRRC, the Virtual Reality Racing Club, and WSR as well, World Sim Racing, who help put together the league stewarding and administration for the ROKiT British F4 Esports Championship. So thanks to them, and definitely without these sponsors, this show, this season would not have happened. But we're not ending just yet. We've got one more race to go here at Silverstone, and I have no idea what's going to happen. You just flip a coin, pick a random number generator, and that's the driver that's going to win this race, it feels like.
Yeah, because of the way the breakaway happened in the previous race, I feel that we'll have a breakaway. I don't know how many cars will be in it. It could just be the one, to be honest. In all likelihood, it'll be 3 or 4, as we saw in the previous race. 4 is kind of like actually a good number for a breakaway in this kind of car. 5 or 6 maybe. I genuinely don't think the train will be more than 6. Now that comes down to a little bit of experience in this car, and from what I've seen elsewhere, is that 6 really is kind of like the magic number in this car. More than 6 and the train splits apart into a group of 3 and a group of 4, or group of 5 and a group of 2. You don't tend to have groups of 7, 8, 9, certainly not of 22. You will do for 3 or 4 laps, fair enough, but then outside of that, I genuinely think you'll see sort of 3 or 4 clear off from the front again. So you want to be on the right side of history when it comes out. You want to be in that top 3 when that you kind of split potentially happens. We'll have to wait and see on that one though. And like I say, it's the final race of the evening, but it's the third to last race of the championship. We're already most of the way through. We've completed 9 races, 3/4 down, just 3 races left to go for the team's championship. If Munster Rugby Gaming wants to do anything to really fight for it, if Josh Ladd wants to do anything to fight for it, it kind of turns into that now or never mentality, which again can be a little bit risky, can be a little bit spicy, but it can be a little bit exciting. So, I'm all for it.
It can, and well, you hit the nail on the head there. Munster Rugby Gaming need a good race 2 here, because it was an okay race 1. It wasn't a stellar by any means, at least compared to the Apex drivers. However, they want to be in a position in this race 2 where they're gaining points back on those 2 Apex cars. There's no point in finishing, a couple positions behind either one of them. They need to be consistently having both of their drivers up there ahead of Apex to be able to do anything about this points gap at the moment to make it easier on them to go for the championship at Brands. That's the task for Munster Rugby Gaming here at the moment. If they're unable to do that, and Apex, both the academy and the main team, gain a couple more points out of this one, then their life is so difficult in that final round.
Yeah, and that's kind of the big thing at the moment, is making sure that your life is as easy as possible going into Brands Hatch. Brands Hatch is more of a driver circuit than here, so it can be you making the difference, which I think Apex Racing Team will be more than happy with. But it is a risky track. It is a dangerous track, and it's a track where, of course, last round of the season, everyone wants to make that final last little challenge, and it's where you want a comfortable lead going into it because of that scenario. We'll have to wait and see what happens. That's obviously going to be in a week's time. It's going to be a fantastic event. I'm a bit sad to obviously not be a part of it, but can't wait for it. Absolutely fantastic.
It's going to be epic, and we're not just going to have the last round of the ROKiT British F4 Esports Championship either. We're going to have an all-star cup race for that season finale beforehand as well. That's why we're starting an hour earlier for the final round of the season to make sure we can get an All-Star Cup race in. So you have some of your favorite streamers, some of your favorite content creators getting themselves out there on circuit in these very same cars that these drivers are competing in now, just to give us a little bit of a showcase before the main proceedings start in the finale. So that is certainly one thing to look forward to. I'm certainly looking forward to it. I'm going to be there. It's going to be absolutely crazy stuff indeed. So it's going to be a day full of action in the ROKiT British F4 Esports Championship for that finale. But we've got one more race to get out of the way with here to make sure we've set the stage in the best way possible for that finale. We're just a minute away from getting ourselves our starting grid for race number 2. And of course, there's going to be a lot of nerves out there now. Like you mentioned, Lewis, there's going to be this tension. There's going to be this sort of internal encouragement to try and press on forwards on the part of some of these drivers. That can be a recipe for disaster, as we've already mentioned, but it's the last round of the penultimate. It's the last race of the penultimate round of the season. You've got to be going for gold.
Yeah, you've got to. I mean, this is the thing I've always said when it comes to races on iRacing. If there's one thing where I've got a little bit of like almost like a bugbear, it's more from a personal point of view, when it comes to road course racing, is the fact that you don't get a formation app. And I've always said when it comes to championships and stuff, some people love it, some people hate it, but I think a formation app is so important to breathe, to get into that mentality that you don't really get just sat there on the starting grid. You want to get yourself into the mentality of the race. You want to build yourself up as much there. Obviously, we had a rolling start, then yeah, absolutely. My point being, if the drivers don't get that warm-up process, they don't get a part of it, you're literally, the first time that you will be driving the car is the race start. Obviously you got warm up and whatnot, but that's not quite the same. That first time in that race session that you'll be driving the car is that race down towards the first corner. And when you've got a championship on the line, when you've got money on the line, I cannot tell you how much harder that is to get yourself into the rhythm, to get yourself into the focus, to kind of see, oh, hang on, the tyres are actually here. The temperatures changed this, it's absolutely incredible.
Well, with no further ado, let's have a look at the starting grid then for race 2 here at Silverstone. It is Stanley Deslandis getting himself pole position right next to Josh Ladd in second place. Luke McEwen will start in third with Ted Bradbury in fourth. Peter Berryman will start in fifth. And then it's the drivers that missed out on the reverse grid spot. Alex Betts, we got Peo Ev, James Armstrong, Pete Harridan, Ryan Mikulev rounding out the top 10. Jimmy Fluke and Liam McNeely will round out the top 12. Then you've got Ethan Critchley, Bree Widener, we've got Monica Ramos, we've got Deegan Fairclough, Matt Caruana, Dion Gouda rounding out the top 18 cars, and then rounding out our 22-car grid, Carl Chase, Joseph Luke, Ruben Stanislaus, and Ollie Davis here today. Just a few seconds away from getting racing once again down in towards Copse Corner. I'm very thankful you're able to join us for this one. We're about to set the stage for the finale. The engine notes will rise once again here at the home of British Motorsports, and away we go as we get ourselves racing down in towards Copse Corner. It's a good start then from Josh Ladd as he makes it side by side with your pole position sitter on the way down in towards turn number 1, and Josh Ladd has gotten the position done, gets that Munster Rugby gaming car up into the race lead. A bit of a weaving across the circuit as well, as Deslandis will now have to deal with his teammate Luke McEwen, as oh no, a little bit of a lock up there from Josh Ladd, and Deslandis has stuck it back underneath.
Yeah, I mean, I will say Bradbury had a terrible start off the grid. There's a bit of smoke in the background as someone's gone for a bit of a spin in the rear end. But it is going to be Josh Ladd taking over the race lead once again from Deslandis. Needs to do something here, but of course the teammate of the championship leader is not going to give that one up at all. Berryman holding the inside line outside. They're 2x2, bit of contact between the two Apex Racing team cars. I think McEwen's been pushed out wide.
Oh, and diving down onto the pit lane goes James Armstrong. So must be a jump start potentially to come down on towards the pit lane that early, but it's side by side between the race leaders though. Josh Ladd on the inside of Copse Corner. This Landis being hung out to dry a little bit, especially given Pierre Berryman in the sister car has just stuck it down his inside, so just makes his life a little bit more complicated into Maggots and Beckett's once again for the second time in this race 2. Ladd holding on to the race lead and swings back across to cut off the nose of this Landis, taking that extreme driver's left-hand side line to try and make sure the inside is his in towards Brooklands as we look to go 3 wide. We don't actually make it happen though.
Yeah, up and under. Everyone's trying to make something stick here. Of course, Spets is trying to make it a Munster Rugby Gaming 1-2. He's around the outside of this land. This might get squeezed off a little bit on the exit of Luffield as we head on to the start-finish straight once again. Right out wide, that'll be McAuliffe in the number 71, just squeezing his way around the outside. Pev, by the way, is doing an absolutely storming job up in a 5th spot at the moment for Fordzilla. Just on the rear end of this train, and that's 77. You can see just behind Spets. He's absolutely focused on doing one thing and one thing only here, and that is taking victory for Fordzilla.
Yeah, it would be fantastic as, there's a send for Spets down the inside of Berryman for P2 as the race leaders fight it out as well. Pev is involved in a bit of a 3-wide situation back in the pack with Fluke and McAuliffe as well. So action no matter where you look here in the early stages of race 2 at Silverstone. The Slanders, long way around at Brooklands. They both wash out into the runoff there. You got to be careful with these incident points, Lewis. We saw that happen with the main peloton in the first race. They got so many incidents by running wide while fighting that a few of them had to peel down on towards the pit lane.
Well, either side of me talking there, when you were having your point, Pev's dropped from 5th to 9th, just showing how crazy these races can be. You're going up the order, you're going back down the order, and it's why this train will not last as one big group. They will start to split apart. They will start to splinter. Berryman taking over the race lead. He's looking for the double at Silverstone. He was saying that he's going to go for it a little bit in this race. There's a little bit of contact as well as Deslandis gets into the rear end of Lad or Spets. I think it would have been Spets going through. Oh, it's getting squeezed off as well. McAuliffe is getting pushed just a touch by Bradbury, who's coming through, and Pev over on the right-hand side.
3 wide into Brooklands with Bradbury in the middle very briefly. He's going to wash out here again, going to pick up another incident point for doing that. And, well, if you get 15 of them over the course of this race, you'll have to bring it down towards the pit lane. Someone's got bullied out way wide there. That was Deslandis on the outside of Spets there, coming off of Luffield, and Deslandis is not going to be very happy about that situation. Loses him a whole bunch of spots as he's now having to deal with Fairclough down his inside at Cop's Corner. Oh, it's so hard to keep track of everything going on at the moment because it's all pretty chaotic. But what I can tell you is McEwen and Pev are going wheel to wheel in towards Maggots and Maggots.
Yeah, they're going to just go through Maggots and then back out onto the Wellington straight. Squeezing out just a little bit was McEwen, just pushing the Bulgarian just a touch wide. They've got to be careful here because the top 2 are starting to clear away. That one going aggressive in the background of the defence is the number 87 of Deegan Fairclough. Of course, Critchley is going to try and get around the outside heading into Brooklands. This train's still a part of it. Jamie Fluke dropped back down to 11th. He had worked up into 9th spot. Now moving back down the order. Harrod as well, waiting for some more points this evening. But the top 2 are building a little bit of a gap. Berryman and Ladd 7/10 of a second back to Spets as they complete another lap at Silverstone. If Bradbury goes on the attack here, it could become a 2-car race for the race lead.
Well, it all depends on whether Bradbury wants to justify it out for 3rd or have a little bit of a outside shot at getting himself a race win, which was nabbed away from him last moment in the previous race. Look at this. Oh, Fluke, not a lot of room to work with there. Tries to get back to the inside as Critchley has to push out wide. And, well, Fluke will gain a little... Well, he did have a run coming down the straight here. He had to lift out of it, though, because he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. But he dips back in the slipstream, gets himself to the outside of Brooklands now, and can have another little stab at it as he gets himself half a car length ahead, now a full car length ahead. So great move there from Jamie Fluke to get disposed of Critchley there and continue to try and press on forward and not lose this main battle pack.
Yeah, it's a frustrating round at the moment for Jamie Fluke. No points in the first race, looking at just a single point in this race if he's not careful, because Fairclough's a good half second to a second even clear at the moment. It's becoming, like you said, the trains are splitting. The top 2 have just split themselves out a little bit. Then 3rd through 9th being a 7-car train as McEwen and McAuliffe switch over positions as Landis going on the attack. Pev and spinning out Pev. Never mind, we'll lose a couple from this train as those 2 get sent down the order for the Apex Racing Academy. That is a disaster.
It is absolute disaster for the Apex Academy team. They can't have afforded to have something like that happen, no matter whose fault it was. And of course, the stewards will decide it afterwards. That was still a situation that Apex Racing Academy didn't need here at this late stage of the season, especially given you have Munster Rugby Gaming P2, P4 here at the moment as we watch a replay.
Deslander sends it to the inside. Pev might have squeezed over a little bit. It's hard to see from that angle. And like you say, to be quite honest, it doesn't necessarily matter too much who's at fault. All it matters is that the Apex Racing Academy are in a bad spot because of where Munster Rugby Gaming are. Let's take a look from above. As you can see down the inside, but he's really not there. I've got to say, Deslandis is just not there. And Pev's trying to keep up with the slipstream. Maybe you could say Pev squeezed. Maybe you could say Deslandis just wasn't there. That is something for race control. All we know is that those two are going to be jettisoned from the points right down the order.
Indeed they are, and well, now it just leaves the lone Apex Racing Academy car, at least, in this leading pack. It is an Apex Racing team leader at the moment in the form of Peter Berryman, but in terms of the other half of that team, Jamie Fluke, he's down in P8 here at the moment as well, trying to deal with Deegan Fairclough, and they are at risk of losing this leading pack here at the moment as well. So it's not an ideal day, or at least ideal race 2 for Apex Racing team either. I would say that the points delta currently swinging in the favor of Munster Rugby Gaming, which is exactly what they needed out of this race.
Yeah, they needed a good one. They needed a good one in this final. Bit of a lock up there in the background from McAuliffe, who's going to drop a little bit of time to McEwen, who's trying to attack Spets. By the way, what was the magic number that I said before this race? When it comes to a pack racing in this car, it's 6, and we have kind of 6 for the race lead, kind of.
Well, I mean, this goes back to our discussion at the very start of the season, round 1 at Donington. It's the Lewis McGlade rule of 6 here in this situation. There's a battle for the race lead going on. Berryman keeps himself ahead for now, despite Josh Ladd's best efforts, all things considered. Bradbury, again, just on the outside looking in, waiting in the wings, just like he did in race number 1, as the guys behind also decide to have a little bit of a squabble, as Spets gets himself a good drive off of Cobb's corner, allows himself to try and challenge Luke McEwen, come back at him.
It's gone from a group of 6 to 2 groups of 3 because McEwen's under a lot of pressure from Spets, who of course is the teammate of Josh Ladd, trying to separate the 2 groups, trying to guarantee McEwen not scoring as many points again for the team's title as well. It's great if he can make this one work, but it puts a lot of pressure on the shoulders if you're really focusing on grabbing points from one of the drivers. It really has to come from Ladd. He really needs to win this race, but Berryman obviously took a race victory in the previous race. Bradbury's hungry because he lost it on that final lap. He's sat in 3rd position at the moment with 20 minutes left to go. Of course, there's not going to be anything too crazy at the moment, but knowing how good Bradbury was at not attacking it, being patient at the previous race, Josh Ladd will be in the same boat. I think these 3 could genuinely become the top 3 for the win, but Ladd is going for it.
Indeed he is. He's not going to settle for P2 here at the moment. Wants the track position, wants to get up into the race lead. Bradbury is also going to have a surprise move as well. He goes deep in towards Maggot, gets the pass done on Ladd, as long as Ladd can't come back at him off the corner, which he actually will do so. And with the help of the slipstream of Berryman, might be in a good position here, but he's going to be boxed in a little bit by Bradbury, as Bradbury makes things a little tighter on the way down in towards the Brooklands. And Bradbury now has option to go for the race lead. Sends it in deep. Has to be careful not to wash out. Does a little bit, but has the position. Gets the race lead into our field.
Yeah, I've got to say, all my talk of how patient this group is going to be, straight out of the window is the top 3 battle away. 1.5 seconds clear of Spets, McAuliffe who switch over, but McEwen, Fluke and Fairclough, who are all in the train behind. You can see the side-by-side there, the side-by-side for the race lead. Bradbury will retake over at the front. Ladd with the better drive through Cops, though, might have something to say about that on the race down towards Maggots. He'll be on the inside. Maybe it's going to go 3 wide. He's not going to have an overlap. Bradbury's taken the defensive line immediately to try and hang on, almost with a similar mistake to what he did in the final lap of the previous race, as they're going to hang on to the race lead. Bradbury at the front, then Berryman, then Ladd.
There we go. This is not what we saw in race 1, is it? It's the front 3 fighting in the early stages of the event, and Berryman back to the pointy end. Ladd looking around the outside of Bradbury here, and it gifts him the inside for Luffield, which is where you've wanted to be all day, pretty much, coming through there. So that's a great little move there from Ladd. He's going to lose a little bit of speed off the corner, might come under threat from Bradbury into Cops, as has tended to be the case sometimes with those little situations through Luffield. But they're still maintaining a bit of a gap back to it's Alexander Spets now leads that grouping in behind. So he's been able to get back through the train, hasn't he?
Yeah, I'm not sure as to whether this train is going to grow too much more, or whether we're going to see this get quite close and then split up immediately. Fairclough, though, down the inside of Fluke, and then, like I say, you've got Gowdy, you've got Critchley, you've got Harrod, all just on the end of this train. I think this is the thing. Is I think there's almost too many cars in this train that we are going to see those splits happen once again. It breaches that rule of 6. There's a big slip and slide there from McAuliffe. It's going to overheat his tyres. He's got to be careful on the exit here of Luffield to watch out that it doesn't slip and slide on the exit, and maybe even down into Cops, because if the rear end slides through one corner, typically the rears are overheated for a couple of corners after until you can bring it back into the temperature window.
Yeah, indeed, and that's the situation that we tend to see here in iRacing. It's not a problem that's specific to the Formula 4s or the IRO 4s, as they're called here in Sim, by any means. You know, as soon as you put a little bit too much heat into those tyres, you're sliding around a little bit. That will cause you to slide down even more, and it is a vicious cycle once the tyres are outside of their operating window. So you do have to be very, very careful. As we see this big long shot down the Wellington straight into Brooklands, and well, Dion Gowda there just going to the inside, having to try and deal with that Apex Racing team car on the outside, and that's Fluke. That's not having the greatest of days, has recovered a little bit here in race 2 though. Started P11, currently inside of the top 10 there in P9, so at least is scoring points for Apex Racing team. But certainly nowhere near as many as Berryman's scoring at the moment, although Berryman's having a tough job trying to hold on to that race lead at the moment.
Yeah, lad's just gone for it into T1. Might well have a look down the inside. You can just see there in the distant background heading down into Maggots. You're absolutely right about Jamie Fluke. There is a switch for the race lead. Lad down the inside. Berryman still trying to hang around the outside, and Bradbury will sit there in third and potentially will do something just very quickly on Fluke. I think his lowest position in this race has been 12th. His highest position has been 8th. And he's still running right in the middle of all of that as we see a few more switches. The race lead, though, is going to hang on. It is still going to be Berryman who's taking that defensive line. He's channeling his inner Ted Bradbury from the previous race, and he's looking to hang on to the race lead.
Meanwhile, the real Ted Bradbury's in 3rd place, which is exactly where he was in the early portions of race 1. In fact, I say early portions. It was for everything but the last 3 laps, it felt like, for Ted Bradbury. So he's a similar sort of position again. We've seen what he's able to do from this position here for Bradbury, but the difference is, compared to race 1, is that he actually has the 2 cars ahead of him actually swapping for position. So it might be a different plan of attack potentially for Bradbury. And as well, he has shown that he's not afraid to stick his nose in there in this race too.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. The fact that he's not fighting 2 teammates, that is going to, everyone's a mercenary in that battle, is going to help a little bit. We've got those trains forming, 3 for the race lead, 4 behind that, and then 4 behind that as well, as we're focused on Fluke and Gowda going side by side, running through Brooklands. Gowda with the inside line and hanging on to the position. And then we're going to have the duo of Critchley and Harrod, the teammates that will join into this battle. Like I say, Fluke's really struggling around here. I mean, it's just generally, the pace just doesn't really seem to be there too much. I mean, don't get me wrong, driving much faster than I am. He's probably only a 10th off the pace, really, but a 10th around here is an absolute lifetime.
It's a critical stage of the season to be having a bit of a dud race or a dud event. So that's not ideal for Apex Racing team. And, well, Fluke's going to have another little look here on Gowda, but Gowda, sort of interesting line coming through Maggots there. Not going to question it, but you can see the snaking now. You see Gowda just weaving his way down the straight there, trying to break the draft. It never really works, to be honest, as we're going, at least looking towards the very front, as we saw in the very back of the shot there, Fluke through on Gowda.
Yeah, as much as that battle's chopping and changing quite a bit, the battle ahead just really isn't, which is good for them. McEwen, Spets, McAuliffe and Fairclough, all of them sat in line, all of them waiting, all of them just ticking off some decent lap times, trying to do something about the racing. Of course, those 4, none of them are teammates, as we'll see in this. Again, another little switch. Fluke and Gowda just trying to change this. They're just, effectively, they're just wasting time right now. The intense attack and defence, with 40 minutes left to go, it is not worth it at all. And as we ride on board with Ethan Critchley, I can understand why this lot might get a little bit more frustrated by what they're seeing ahead of them.
With the Century Sim Racing 97. This is Critchley who's going to get squeezed here, just given a lane, and only a lane on the outside of Brooklands there. Well, you do always have to live the space, as a famous Spanish racing driver said, but, you know, that was literally the only space that Gouda decided to give Critchley there.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, that's it's tough racing between this entire group. It's tough racing up and down the order. Things have started to calm down just a touch in that top group, and then the group of 4 behind. But in this group, things are definitely yet to settle in those final point paying positions, 8th, 9th, and 10th. It's kind of one of those irritating things when you've got a group of 4 like this, battling over 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th. Is you're sat there thinking, look, one person, only one person in this group, if this was to all finish as it is, only one person is not scoring points. Don't let it be you. That's the frustrating bit.
Yeah, that's what it feels like, that's for sure. But things starting to simmer down a little bit, at least amongst this front 3. In terms of the pack behind them, McEwen has been able to get to the lead in that one, so at least is doing the best damage control he can do as part of that Apex Racing Academy car after Deslanders' incident. And of course, Deslanders actually counting as a retirement from this race. He's 9 laps down and not going to come out of the pit lane anytime soon, it seems. So it seems like that McEwen will be the potentially only point scorer from the Apex Racing Academy here, which will not help one slightly in terms of damage. They were leading the points coming into the day, remember?
Yeah, definitely not going to be afterwards, you know, consider it. But then, I mean, even look at the previous race, because of course, as much as we'll talk about the victory of Berryman, I mean, let's be honest, McEwen was in 3rd, and then his teammate Deslanders obviously was in 5th. Meanwhile, Jamie Fluke wasn't scoring any points. It was a decent points haul, but that was because it being 15 and 10 for those positions, it's the same points haul between the teams. So right now, as of this race, the Apex Racing Academy is still the points leader. I can almost guarantee, based on this race, they will not be afterwards.
Well, we'll see what the mathematics works out to. It's just potentially going to be a matter of how far behind are they compared to both their main team and, of course, the Munster Rugby Gaming here as well. And of course, yeah, there was quite a bit, wasn't there? Oh, yeah, someone is off, and that's Ramos, so it's lap down car. Ramos having a little bit of a problem there, unfortunately. Having a bit of a problem with her internet as well, it seems. But getting out of the way in terms of being lap traffic here for the moment. Here's Dion Gouda having another little response as they make contact. And both of them spin out into the grass. That is... Oh, that can't be happening. That can't be happening in that situation, especially if you're Apex Racing team and can't with the rejoins, please.
Yeah, that was suboptimal. We'll see it once again from up above so we can get a clear view as to what happened. You've got Jamie Fluke ahead. Dion Gouda goes to the inside, sends it into Brooklands. Is it going to be a little bit too deep? Drift. Yeah, I mean, Gouda's drifting off of the typical line there into the path of Fluke. If you Fluke, realistically, maybe you can kind of back out of that one and give the line through the corner. The inside car is typically going to wash out if you do it times, and on that case, it's exactly what happened. Just a costly mistake from Gouda, and Fluke's definitely not going to be scoring any points.
That's one thing off the checklist now. We've had a dodgy rejoin. I was waiting for one of those.
Yeah.
Those that listen to RaceSport TV broadcast know how much of a fan I am of calling out dodgy rejoins. But yeah, that's of course something that's going to be looked at after the race by the stewards. In case that rejoin was particularly egregious, they might apply license points to it, which will definitely not be needed coming into the final round of the season, that's for sure. But we've got less than 10 minutes to go. There's your leading trio. Currently, Berryman leads from Bradbury from Lads. In terms of second pack, McEwen leads that one for Apex Academy from Alexander Spetz. And all this has done, Lewis, this has played into the hands of Munster Rugby Gaming once again. It's happened again. We had an incident with an Apex Racing Academy car with Deslanders early on in the race. Now we've had an incident with Jamie Fluke as part of the main Apex team. These are just falling in the lap of Munster Rugby Gaming.
Yeah, like I say, it's been an impressive run of consistency in this race from the Munster Rugby Game. Like I say, they're just kind of putting themselves out of trouble, putting themselves in position whilst everyone's kind of exploding a little bit around them. I still think they're a little bit too far behind when it comes to the points, and they didn't make enough of the previous race, but still they're trying to make enough of this one. They're trying to do what they need to do. If Lad can take the victory here, that will be very, very big, especially if Specs can get past McEwen and into fourth. This could be a big race for the Munster Rugby Gaming team heading into that season finale. Whether they'll be leading or not, they just want to throw themselves into the challenge. That's the important bit right now. They want to be in the hunt. They want to be in the title race. That's where they are focused right now, whilst Bowman hangs the race lead from Bradbury and Ladd. They're fighting in this group's definitely calmed itself down, but we do know, with 5 minutes left to go, it'll get turned back up to 11. Bradbury's going to be hungry to not make a repeat of what he did in the previous race. He doesn't want to set off a second twice in a row.
Yeah, indeed. But less than 8 minutes. Berryman, Bradbury, Ladd, leading trio. Here's the onboards with. He's very. Now you say it, that is incredibly reclined. I mean, they are quite reclined in Formula cars, aren't they? Especially in F1, they're basically laying down. But I've never seen a sim rig where you're basically laying down.
All the way. Yeah, I mean, I would say it's probably not too dissimilar to what you'd be in the actual car. Although I feel if I were driving like that for too long, especially endurance racing, I'd go to sleep. So, good on you. Good on you for giving that a go. Like I say, it doesn't seem completely inaccurate. You don't see too many sim rigs that go that far back. When I was doing the ROKiT Racing Star Formula 4 Esports competition UK in Bolton earlier on in the year in May, we had the the proper sim rigs that were actually basically in an open wheel car. And you jump in. I'd say that the rig's probably not far off being reclined like that. And it's a bizarre experience to kind of sit in a car and still trying to focus when you're in a position which is completely unnatural. When it does become natural, you're just kind of like one with the car.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've seen some weird sim rig setups in my own commentating, let's just say that. But, that one probably unorthodox, yes, but weird, no, because, of course, it's reflecting something that happens in the real world. But I've seen drivers with wheels, like, almost at their eye line and higher, and similarly so in the opposite direction, especially with some of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola Cup Series drivers. Some of them are just in the most weird sequences ever. But yeah, I mean, I guess whatever floats their boat, right? If it makes them quick and they feel comfortable with it, then that's fine. It's just not orthodox.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that slight difference that most people will be like, wait, hang on a second, I can't keep up with that. Whereas when you've done it enough, it's fine.
There was a driver in this series that had the steering wheel really high, or at least had his seat really low.
Oh, I can't
remember who it was. Was it Slanders? I'm not sure.
Maybe we need to spy on people more. That's what we're saying here in the comments.
Bring up the Zoom.
Yeah, exactly. Let's ignore this race. So yeah, this is all great, but this is the whole thing in the IMSA Esports Global Challenge, that World Championship that we just did recently, ended last week. There was one guy in it who had a lot of office chairs, and every time he brought it up, he was like, "Where's all the office chairs? Where's all the office chairs?" Big Sean Campbell, of course. In that, it is kind of one of those things. I feel bad as a commentator, is that sometimes we just literally just spy on people for a bit when they're mid-race, when the absolute height of focus, where you could, I can't even describe the amount of things that could happen around or behind, but you're so focused on the race that none of that matters. As Fairclough with a big send.
Whoa. That was a big statement. He's got to be careful that he's not overcooked it, though, because McKelliff can now come back at him, coming off the corner, and maybe have a response into Brooklands. But he's losing ground now as they head their way down into the braking zone. And Becker just swings in ahead and makes sure that position is kept on lockdown. And, a little bit of a oversteer moment there from McKelliff. It's not going to help the situation whatsoever. This might be, I'm touching wood at the moment, but that's might be fatigue and Fairclough. One of the first times he's actually got himself to the checker flag in a race, in a good position.
Oh, you can't believe you said that.
I might be jinxing him right now.
No, yeah, that's it, mate. We've got four minutes left to go in this race, and we're about to enter Crazy Town. I would not be putting the curse on Deacon Fairclough in such a way. He's doing a great job. He's in the 6th position after starting down the order. He's done a fantastic job rising up, but the job is not done yet. It will be done in 4 and a bit minutes time, depending on how many, whether they get the extra lap and how much longer they'll be going. I think we'll be probably having 4 laps left to go after this one. So there's still quite a lot of work to be done.
Indeed, and I have to wonder for some of these drivers what the instant point situation is looking like, because we did have a couple of drivers in race 1 have to hop their way down on towards pit lane because of infringing the instant limit, which is set to 15 for each of the 2 races here today. We haven't seen anyone come down in for an instant point related problem in this race. We saw a potential jump start, so a driver had to come down in, but we haven't had an instant point infringement just yet. I don't think, at least from major positions. But still 3 minutes left, still some time to have that happen, especially if these guys start fighting once again, because it's been pretty calm over the last couple of laps, except for that send that we saw from Fairclough. But in these last couple of laps, potentially just as chaotic as they were in race 1.
Yes, indeed. I think we're going to be turning this one back up to 11. You can see a little bit of damage on the front end of Spets' car. Won't be affecting too much when it comes down to that straight line speed. It's a group of 3 for the race leader, group of 4 for those behind. Final points paying positions going the way of Critchley, Harrod and Davies at the moment. But Caruana is there, and we've seen some great speed from Caruana. Unfortunately, Fluke's not going to be a part of that train, as here comes a look to the inside. Spets is going to send one down the inside of McEwen. He's desperate to take over 4th position, and if his teammate Ladd can take over the race lead in the final couple of minutes, this can be looking very good for Munster Rugby Gaming. But in this train, here comes Fairclough.
Oh, Fairclough sends it in. Spets able to avoid it, and he comes back underneath them, gets himself ahead as it's 3 wide down the Wellington Straight, as now McCullough has gotten himself involved in this one. McEwen, he's got to be so careful here. He's the only Apex Racing Academy car left in this race. He can't afford to have an incident and lose yet more points for the team in the championship. So he does back out of that situation. Possibly the wisest move he could have done there.
Yeah, exactly. You got to play, even with a couple of laps left to go, you still sometimes got to play the long game. We're on the penultimate lap. Ladd takes over from Berryman, then 2nd position, the switch over. Bradbury's clearing away half a second at the moment. Bradbury's looking for his victory. He's got a decent gap, but that'll certainly come down courtesy of the slipstream.
Here we go, as it's going to be, again, another titanic battle inside your podium positions here. We've got so many places to look at on circuit in these last couple of laps. You can see them now heading their way down the Wellington Straight. Josh Ladd trying to follow through in the slipstream of Bradbury. Berryman trying to do the same to him as they head their way on the brakes in towards Brooklands. Still no changes of position here, apart from, of course, Bradbury getting himself up into the race lead. He started 4th place, remember, 2nd row on the starting grid in our reverse grid event here today. But as we drive to the line now, it's going to be 1 more lap to go. It's another trio for the race lead, just like in race number 1. But which configuration, which order will they come across the line in? There's a big defense in that secondary pack as well, as Spets is trying to hold on to a good finish for Monster Rugby Gaming. But we've got eyes at the front here. What's going to happen? Bradbury's gap, Bradbury's advantage has been swallowed up by Josh Ladd, and Ladd gets himself a good drive and a good run coming out of the corner. He might be able to make this happen on the brakes in towards Brooklands. Bradbury having to go defensive on that inside, but if Ladd can hang it around the outside here, he'll get himself the inside for Luffield. Not going to be successful in that instance. On the brakes into Luffield then, as they head their way through the final major corner of this racetrack, and charging up towards Woodcote once again. Bradbury, he was on for a race win in race 1. It didn't happen for him, but now in race 2, it is Bradbury's. It is YRDA Ardens as they come across the line to take the race win here in race 2. Josh Ladd 2nd place. Peter Berryman, P3. In terms of those positions further behind, Alexander Spets does hold on from P4 for an ideal race 2 for Munster Rugby Gaming. Deegan Fairclough comes home P5 as well. But you can see how happy Bradbury is about that situation, about that race win. Oh, that was hard fought.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, great drive from Bradbury. Ladd and Berryman behind. Like you say, I think I can't remember if it is, but I believe it is so. It ends the streak of consecutive race wins that Apex has had. Of course, it didn't win the first race of the championship, and then won of the season, race 2 through race 9. across all 4 of the drivers they've got in here. That streak is officially over heading into the final race of the season, as Ted Bradbury he said what he did exactly what he said in his interview. He was coming here to do one thing, and that was take a victory, well, a second, and then a win.
Yeah, and important points there for YRDA Arden as well. It doubles. Well, they had 25 points coming into this one. They've scored 25 from that race alone for Ted Bradbury. So that's a good effort from those guys. We've got Josh Ladd P2 for Munster Rugby Gaming, Pete Berryman P3 with Alex Betts P4 for Munster Rugby Gaming. So that makes things a little bit tighter now between your top 3 teams coming into the final round of the season. Deegan Fairclough finally getting himself a representative finish, shall we say, for him in P5, with Luke McEwen in P6. Ryan McAuliffe in P7 with Ethan Critchley P8. Pete Harrod in P9 with Ollie Davis rounding out the top 10 and the final points paying position. Double points finish for YRDA Arden as well. We've got Matt Caruana P11, Jamie Fluke in P12, outside the points for Apex Racing Team. Not the situation they would have hoped for coming into race 2, that's for sure. Bree Widener in P13 with Dion Gouda in P14. Ruben Stanislaus P15 with Monica Bolton Ramos in P16. Carl Chase P17, so still no points on the board for Mensa Racing here in the penultimate round of the season. So they're going to be looking to try and do that at the finale, which is no small feat whatsoever. Stanley Deslandis there with an early incident as one of our retirements in P18 for Apex Racing Academy, making it a race 2 to forget for not only Apex Academy, but the Apex Racing team as well. Joe Ciclo P19, excuse me, with Piopev rounding out the top 20. And those drivers that finished, well, classified at the bottom of the order, James Armstrong and Liam McNeely. So after another chaotic race here at Silverstone for the Simucube round number 5 of the ROKiT British F4 Esports Championship, we'd have to take another little breather here, I get the feeling, because again, it was another chaotic race finish. Bradbury getting himself the race win, and it was almost lost in very similar fashion to what we saw in race 1 as well. But this time around, it's like he had a flashback in one of the F1 games. He actually was able to do it this time around and get the W.
Yeah, super round. I mean, Berryman and Bradbury both matched on points out of this with a second and a first. I mean, it's been a super effort and consistency. They were, it wasn't. No, because it's Ladd that finished in second. I'll count that one immediately. Ted Bradbury would effectively win the round. But a second and a first with Bradbury either way. I mean, incredible consistency, incredible pace. And again, keeping the nose clean. For a driver that we've seen get into trouble a few times this season, that is a really impressive effort.
Yeah, incredibly impressive and great job from Josh Ladd for giving him a very, very good run towards the ends there. But Ladd's, I think, was sort of thinking more big picture in that situation there as well. He knew that Munster Rugby Gaming were on for a very good points haul in that race too, and didn't want to do anything necessarily to throw that in the bin, just like Apex Racing Team and Apex Academy did earlier on in the race, whether or not it was their fault or not in those incidents. But yeah, it's Josh Ladd did exactly what he needed to do. Berryman was very, very good over the course of this race as well. So we will get ourselves the opportunity to have a little bit of a chat to our drivers. And well, Lewis, you're standing by with an obviously very happy Ted Bradbury, especially considering the celebrations after the race.
Yeah, you look like you enjoyed that one. Super effort, mate. I mean, you did exactly what you said you were going to do. You're going to come along. You're going to take that victory. Super job.
Yeah, thank you. Great mentality for myself going into the race after the confidence for the first race. I had confidence in the setup, good starting position. Was happy with the people around me as well. They all drove a great race.
Confidence. It really is an important thing when it comes to this as an esport and stuff. It's going to give you a big boost of confidence going into that final round of the championship. Just 2 races left to go, both at Brands. Good track for you and good confidence to take into it, I assume.
Yeah. For the practice that we've done, we've been going well. Obviously, this again, it's a big confidence boost, and for the team and myself, we've obviously found something in the setup, and we've been able to catch the Apex team. So yeah, great job by the team and myself.
I'm going to take a wild assumption that obviously all the title fights and whatnot for the team side of things and the driver side of things, absolutely none of that's on your mind going into the final race. despite them fighting for it, you're going to be fighting for yourself. You're going to be fighting for results for yourself and going for the race wins. And it doesn't really matter about their championships, right?
Yeah, well, they've obviously got championship points to think about. I've got nothing but the win to think about. So that's all I'm thinking about.
Well, it should be a super performance. We'll see you in a week's time. Congratulations to our latest race winner, Ted Bradbury.
Thank you.
Now we'll move in Josh Ladd after a bit of a troublesome first race. Got yourself into fourth, but up into second position in the second one. A great effort through that race, but a little bit sour to come out without a victory from that one. A little bit irritated to come in second, potentially.
Not too bad. I could have maybe been a bit more aggressive on my last lap with Ted, but we're not fighting for a championship with Ted at the end of the day. So just finishing ahead of Peter was good enough, especially after the first race finishing behind and Peter winning, and especially with one of each of the Apex cars being out of the points. It's good for our team championship bid.
Expecting the title race, the team side of things, to have closed up quite a bit going into that final round of the season. Are you confident to deal with that pressure of fighting for the team's championship between two Apex Racing team cars, of course, between the main team itself and then the academy? You're still pretty confident that you and Spets can bring it home?
Yeah, I mean, Brands Hatch is less of an oval like this track, so yeah, we knew coming in to this track that fighting in a 2v4, anything above fifth would be good, because yeah, it should have been reasonably easy for Apex to lock down the 1, 2, 3, 4, honestly. So yeah, we did the best we could, me and Alex.
Now, Brands Hatch, like you say, great track. A few more of a driver circuit, like I say, less of an oval. What are we kind of expecting from around there? Is it going to be as close and chaotic as some of this racing, or is it going to be a bit calmer? A bit more like Alton Park, even.
I think it'll probably be more similar to Donington, though. Now we've all adapted more to the car. Improve the setups and stuff, so maybe a bit more spread out than Donington, and also with the championship, there might be some all or nothing moves from some guys.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. Congratulations on another well-deserved podium, or maybe we'll be speaking to you in a week's time. Cheers, Josh.
Cheers, thanks.
Our final interview of the day will go the way of the race one winner. Of course, it's Peter Berryman back in the booth. I mean, that race, again, a little bit chaotic, but it was another 3-car breakaway. Were you a bit calm and relaxed in that one, or was it still a lot of pressure on your shoulders?
Sort of similar to the first race, I think. At the start of the race, I was a bit worried. There was sort of 4 or 5 cars still connected, and then once it sort of broke into 3 cars, it settled down a bit. So I kind of knew it would be a similar story to the previous race. Unfortunately, a bit of a different ending. Sort of really got myself to blame for that. Tried to set up a good run in the last corner, and front wing just touched the rear of Ted, so that pushed the car around the corner and gave me a big snap of oversteer. And after that, my tires were pretty much the temperature of the sun. So tried everything I could, but third's not too bad, starting 5th.
I think we've got the big question in the commentary booth, which would be more directed towards your teammate in Jamie Fluke, which is he ill? Because we've had this thing where, for whatever reason through these rounds, he's been ill for the ones that he's done really, really well at. And then when he's kind of been healthy, he's not been quite as fast. Is he ill this round, or is he feeling pretty healthy and fit?
Maybe half and half.
Okay.
Maybe that's the problem.
Okay.
I don't think he's back to full health, but yeah. I think a few of us weren't feeling too great the last week or so, but yeah, I guess that sort of takes it kind of leaves a bit of a bad taste for me, because it's the team championship really that matters. So it's not just about the results that I have. So a bit unfortunate for the other guys in the teams there that didn't really have the best of nights. So need to back to the drawing board, I guess, and full focus for Brands.
Expecting it to be a tight little fight between the pair of the Apex Racing 2 cars and, of course, the Munster Rugby game. It's going to be very, very tight going into there. But with it being more of as we were just chatting there with Josh, more of a predictable circuit in the sense of it's going to race more like a standard track in these kind of cars. The slipstream's not going to be quite as king as it is around the Silverstone National Circuit we just run. Surely that's a bit more of a comforting thought going into a round like that, where it is more about what you do in the car and not about what the pack does.
Yeah, I think given the nature of the corners, maybe Dirty Air will be a little bit more of play, but I still think because the corners leading on to a lot of the straights here are quite decent minimum speed, so I think there'll be a lot of fighting into T1, for example. So for sure, maybe not as crazy here at Silverstone, but yeah, I expect it to be pretty close racing at Brands as well.
Well, it's been a successful attempt for you here at Silverstone, so we'll let you go, Peter. Super effort with a win and then another podium.
Thanks, guys.
And back to you, Conor, again, a little chat with our podium finishers. Another well-deserved group of podium finishers. Another top 3 breakaway as well when it comes to that race. Interesting. Oh, I think he's left his microphone muted. That's a me move, that is.
That is an absolute classic.
I've done that one.
Yeah, I haven't done it in what feels like a year. So that's that was a long time coming. It was due. But anyway, yeah, you are absolutely right though. We've had some fantastic races here today, and we had a great action, and hopefully that is something that's going to be repeated as we head into our final event of the season. We head to the Brands Hatch Grand Prix at the end of the season, and that's going to be a fantastic venue for us to try and settle this championship, that's for sure. And I mean, well, it's quite common for British motorsports championships to finish at Brands Hatch, and this one's going to be no different, Lewis.
Yeah, absolutely. West Kingsdown, Kent. It's a tricky track. It's one of my favourites, though. Love it. Going through turn 1 at Paddock Hill, up towards Druids, Graham Hill afterwards, all the corners around the back stretch at Hawthorns and whatnot. It's such a tricky little track, but like we said, Dirty Air is going to play a key factor. Slipstream's going to be on the mind, as well as a tight championship. What we're being told is that the championship between the top 3, the Apex Racing team have 244 points, Munster Rugby Gaming just 3 behind with 241, and then the Apex Racing Academy just 2 behind that with 239, meaning the top 3 teams separated by just 5 points. It's going to be a barnstorming final.
That is incredible. Very, very tight margins heading into our finale. With that, here on this particular round of the ROKiT British F4 Esports Championship, we will have to bring it to a close, but not without thanking our sponsors. Thank you very much to Motorsport UK for all the organisation behind the scenes they do for this championship, and of course their hand in the real life side of things as well. Thank you to our partners ROKiT, who are the title sponsors of the entire season. Simucube for the sponsorship of this race with their new active pedal product coming out very, very soon. Base Performance Simulators as well. Thank you very much to them. Same with VRRC, the Virtual Reality Racing Club, and of course the World Sim Racing for providing the stewarding of the championship as well. But from here at the home of British motorsports at Silverstone, we'll have to say goodbye, but don't worry. It's going to be another week's time before we get ourselves our finale at Brands Hatch. You don't want to miss it.